Hi guys, Chris here, back with another Xiaomi phone. So this is the Redmi Note 5, the Chinese version that just came out last week. Now it's very similar to that Indian version, which is called the Redmi Note 5 Pro. However, this has improved cameras. So we now got an aperture of f1.9, which is brighter than the f2.2 on the Indian version. And the pixels are larger, so they're 1.4 micrometers instead of 1.2 micrometers. They should capture more details. And I believe that this might actually have the Samsung Galaxy S7 dual pixel autofocus camera in it. Well, the sensor at least, but not the lens, of course, which will be great to have an X or an old flagship sensor used in a budget mobile phone. So the rest of the specs are exactly the same as the Indian version. It has that same screen on there, which is 2:1 aspect ratio, 2160 by 1080. It's an IPS panel. And we also have a 4000 mAh battery, 4 GB of RAM, 64 GB of storage is the version that I will be reviewing here. So let's get this unboxed and check it out in greater detail. Now you would have noticed from the title of this video that I do have a giveaway of this. If you're interested in winning one of these right here, a Redmi Note 5, then please click the link down in the description. That will give you more details on that giveaway. So you can see this one comes factory sealed. I got this one from Goldway, Hong Kong, and it is of course the 4 GB version with 64 GB of storage, and it should also be in black. So pretty plain box here. And we'll have of course the Chinese charger in here. Now I don't know whether it's going to support quick charge, but I will check that out. So we have inside here, you can see a TPU case, which is in that kind of gray transparent color. They're pretty cheap, but I mean, it does the job. It's going to protect the camera as well, you can see, because it's raised up edges around there, and it even protects the buttons. So better than nothing, and good to have this to start out with at least. So what else do we get in the box here? So we've got the cable, of course. Now this cable is only MicroUSB 2, which I feel is a very poor move on Xiaomi's behalf. They should switch now to using Type-C for everything, like everyone else's. And the charger, of course, so it's nice and small. And it is rated to 5 volts 2 amps only, so you're not going to get Qualcomm's Quick Charge 3 out of this charger, but I will check one of the chargers I have lying around that does support Qualcomm's Quick Charge 3, see if the phone will at least charge at those rates. Get a little instruction leaflet here as well. Now this is all in Chinese. So along the bottom we have a 3.5mm headphone port, the microphone, MicroUSB 2, and then the loudspeaker. So I'll give you a sample of this loudspeaker later on in this video. And on the top, you'll find an IR transmitter and a secondary microphone used for noise cancellation and in video. On the right hand side, the volume up and down buttons, the power on button. Now these are made out of metal and they've got a good feel to them. On the left, the SIM tray, and it is metal reinforced, which is great because do you remember those plastic ones that could break really easy? You're not going to have the issue with this one. So the back of the phone is made out of metal. We have a fingerprint reader there, and the texture of it, it does feel slippery. So when your hands are cold and dry, this is going to be really, really super slippery. So I'd put that case on it straight away. And you'll notice again the difference there with the metal here and then the painted plastic at the top that imitates metal. But I wish they went just with a unibody metal build on this, and they could have just put a couple of antenna lines on here. And here is where they made some big changes with the camera on the rear. So they swapped out the old sensor, which is the 12 megapixel one with the 1.2 micrometer sized pixels. Now they're 1.4 micrometers, so larger, and they're dual pixel autofocus, still 12 megapixels, and the lens has changed. It is now f1.9, so that should give us some improvements. So that top sensor, that's the 5 megapixel one that's used with your portrait mode to get the blurred backgrounds and for the depth perception. Below and in the middle there is of course the dual tone LED flash. Now taking a look at the weight of it, so it weighs 1.82 grams and it is around about 8 millimeters thick. This is without the protruding camera. You can see the camera does protrude a little bit there, and that now makes it 9. So the camera only sticks out about 1 millimeter or so. So just turning it on for the first time out of the box, there's always a little bit of battery with these phones, which is good. So here are the language options. Of course, if you want more options here, you have to get the global ROM version or wait for the European release, which may be this model here, or it could in fact just be the Indian model that first came out. So obviously I'm going to select English there, and you can set up a network, but I'm going to skip this. I'm going to go through this as fast as possible. Oh, that's my SIM card set up, so skip that. So we can set up a fingerprint, which I'll do now. You need to enter in a PIN number. It's just telling me that I need to remember my password, obviously. Got it, yes. Okay, now, all right, it's come up with the Chinese keyboard, so just going to have to get rid of that for a second. My super secure PIN number that no one's going to guess. Done. And now to add a fingerprint. So this should not take long at all. Just need to touch that a few times. Now, the fingerprint readers on most of these Redmi phones, in fact, all of them, since really the Redmi Note 3 Pro, have been really good and super quick. So I'll test that in just a second. Okay, so first impressions of the screen, it doesn't look bad. You can see that when you move it, yeah, okay, the colors shift out a little bit. Well, it's not really so much color shifting, it's just dimming, isn't it? So it's not like a Super AMOLED panel, but not bad. This IPS screen so far, just taking a look at it, the brightness seems to also be right up there when you turn it on to full brightness. That, in fact, overpowers my current camera settings. Now, just to point out as well that we do have curved 2.5D glass. So out of the box, we have almost 52 gigabytes free. You can, of course, expand upon that with a microSD card. Now, when you first set up the phone, something that I skipped there is it asks you if you want the full screen gestures or you want to use the on-screen buttons that we are all familiar with. I think going forward now is probably best for me to start to use the full screen gestures to get used to that, since these screens now are not using any more capacitive buttons located just down the bottom here. So these gestures, they're pretty straightforward. They're listed right here. So you can see that when you slide from the left, it's going to go back. When you swipe up and stop, that's to open your recents. And then if you just swipe straight up, that takes you then to the home screen. So it's pretty much straightforward and it won't take too long to learn that. Just to also point out that my version is running MIUI 9.5 stable. I've checked for updates, and at the time of this video, there are no updates yet. Android version 8.1, which is really good, and the security patch level is from the 1st of February. So the phone, of course, has face unlocking, and I've just done that, added my face. It literally only takes about 10 seconds. So let's see how this unlocks. You gotta wake it first, of course, and then boom, really quick. And the fingerprint unlocking, well, that is just as fast. In fact, even faster. That's really quick. It only takes a matter of not even a second. That's under a second, and it's unlocked. You don't have to wake it first. The fingerprint reader is always on. Now, just to answer a few of those questions that people have. So, treble check here. Does it support treble? It says yes, it does. But there's kind of some bad news here because it's A only system partition. Now, if it was A and B, then it would be more seamless. Now, what Project Treble is just easier, faster updates on the Android operating systems there. It's part of Android 8 if it's enabled. And quick charge support doesn't seem to work. Now, I've tested with my meter. It's only 5 volts, 2 amps it's charging at. So it's not supporting Qualcomm Quick Charge 3, even though the chipset supports it. Xiaomi does not have that enabled. And then our camera information. So you can see the sensors on there. The auxiliary one is a 5 megapixel Samsung sensor. The main one is the S5K 217 or 2L7, sorry. Now, if that was the 2L1, that would be the Samsung Galaxy S7 sensor, but it's not. It turns out this sensor does support that dual pixel phase diode autofocus, so it should be reasonably good, but I'll give you some samples of that one later on. And the front-facing camera, the 13 megapixel one, is from OmniVision. So we do have double tap to wake on board, and that works pretty well. And you can see face unlocking, took a while to recognize me there, but not too bad. And we do have, of course, the quick shortcut as well for the camera, but you've got to enable that. So when you have that enabled, you double tap on the volume button, it will automatically launch the camera straight away. So I pointed out in the start, we've got a loudspeaker on the bottom. So just a single loudspeaker, there is no secondary one in the earpiece. Xiaomi's saving that for their mid-range and high-end premium devices. But I'll give you a sample of the speaker. It actually sounds all right, not too bad at all. So there's only really one thing. It could be a little bit louder than what it is. That would be nice if Xiaomi could boost up the volume a little bit. Now onto the Antutu scores. So this right here is my Xiaomi Mi Max 2, and that has a Snapdragon 625. The 636 that's on, of course, the Redmi Note 5 replaces that chipset, and you can see why. Look at this huge step up in terms of performance. That is a massive gain there. Now hopefully it's not going to come at the price of battery life, because the Snapdragon 625 is really efficient. I get super battery life out of my Xiaomi Mi Max 2, and hopefully the battery life on this one is going to be just as good as the Snapdragon 625. Moving over now to have a look at the camera. So we've got that new sensor on there, and you can see that launching the application is pretty much almost instant. Well, it takes a few seconds to load in there. Shutter rate as well, and this kind of light with my studio lights on and everything is very good. No complaints with that. So we've got our different modes here. You just swipe up or down to get to them. So this is the portrait mode, of course, that will use the dual sensors. Now that has the blurred background, of course. We don't have that with the front-facing camera because you really need two sensors for that. Unless you're clever like Google with the Pixel 2, they can do that without needing the two cameras. So square, that's just a square. Photo, obviously. Panorama, that's pretty self-explanatory as well. Manual mode doesn't give us a lot of settings here, so only white balance and ISO controls. That's kind of disappointing. ISO all the way up to 3200. I've seen phones that can go higher than that, but that's not bad overall for this kind of category of phone. And if I go into the video mode here, I just wanted to show you that there's a slight disappointment here that, okay, we still don't have the setting that I would love them to have now, and that's 1080p, 60 frames per second, gone. Still not here. They never included it. They're never actually going to put it in their phones, are they, Xiaomi? I don't know why they don't do this. The other thing is Full HD with 4K. The chipset supports it, the sensor supports it. Why isn't it here? It's on the Redmi 5 Plus. I don't know why. They need to obviously add this, update the app. Hopefully that will be coming in the future. So shooting video here now, 1080p with the electronic image stabilization enabled. We don't have 4K, so if you want 4K, you're going to have to use open cam. Now the focus is really good, perhaps one of the best I have seen on a Redmi phone, the Redmi series from Xiaomi. It is really quite good because often you see problems with focus breathing issues or it just doesn't lock on, but this one is pretty solid thanks to the dual pixel that it's using. Now what else is really quite impressive and has impressed me so far is check out the stabilization of this. Now I'm holding this handheld and I'm walking towards Cat right here, and you can see how smooth that is. This is really quite good. So hopefully Xiaomi can enable 4K video with the stock app, even if it means of course they're going to have to disable the electronic image stabilization. I hope they do that. Now if I was being a little bit picky about the camera quality here, I'd have to say that sometimes with the stock app the autofocus does not work as quick as it should. Now here it seems to be working good, but in open cam it just seems to be even better. And the audio bit rate, so it's only 94 to 96 kilobits per second. I feel if Xiaomi were to just increase that slightly, we could have even better audio quality. But overall, really no complaints from me. This is a budget mobile phone, and it shoots fantastic 1080p footage. Now moving over to low light, just checking to see if it's going to drop any frames. And it's doing well. It's keeping up the 30 frames per second, which is good. Now this is really low light at the moment. I mean, the sun's just going down and there's barely any light coming in here. So that's why it looks all grainy and pixelated. So this is now shooting with open cam. And this is in 4K now. So you notice that massive difference with the details captured, of course, going from 1080p to 4K. The other thing I've noticed that the dual pixel autofocus works really well here. Watch this. See that locking on? Works really well. And if I put my hand up again and do that test, see that locks onto my hand. Almost instantaneously. As quick as my Samsung Galaxy S7 or S8 would with its dual pixel autofocus. So if you want the 4K, you want the faster, better focus, then I do recommend using something like Open Camera, a third-party camera application. This is now a quick sample from the front-facing camera. So it's 13 megapixels now, not the 20 you have on the Indian version of this mobile. And the quality to me, so far testing it seems reasonably quite good actually, you know, considering this is a budget phone. I don't find the quality to be bad at all. Alright, so it's looking like a very decent budget mobile phone here with that 2:1 aspect ratio screen. The latest Snapdragon 636 is a massive step up from the Snapdragon 625 that was in the Redmi 5 Plus that I reviewed. A similar mobile phone that's got the same screen on it, but of course this has a different camera setup. So the cameras, I can't comment on whether they have improved significantly over the Indian version, which is the Redmi the Redmi 5 Pro. I can't comment on that because I don't have that mobile phone, but the camera quality for the price of this and the category of mobile phone this is looking really good, especially in daylight. Now, we'll have more low light samples, more camera samples coming up in my full and final review. I'll test out the battery life as well, more benchmarks, some gaming. That's all going to be coming up, so I hope to catch you back in the full review in about a week's time. Now, do remember that you can win one of these. So if you want to go into the draw, then please click the link down in the description of this video here. That'll take you over to where you can enter. It's very easy. That will be drawn in 2 weeks' time. I'll announce the winner on my website and on Twitter there, so best of luck. Now, if you haven't seen my Redmi 5 Plus review, that's right up here, and my latest videos, and I do hope to catch you back with a full review. Bye for now.